Good morning, Venture. It's so good to be with you this beautiful Sunday morning. And you feel free to stand and worship with us.
With an anthem we raise up our voice, proclaim you're alive, alive. Your love keeps chasing me, and it always will, it always will. Your grace keeps changing me, and it always will, it always will. Oh, and in my joy, lift my eyes, let my heart cry out, you're alive, alive. Lift my eyes, let my heart cry out, you're alive, alive. Lift another voice, alive. With an anthem we raise up a voice, proclaim you're alive, alive. Your love keeps chasing me, and it always will, it always will. Your grace keeps changing me, and it always will, it always will. You gave your life away, once and for all, once and for all. Forever you will reign, and you always will, you always will.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer
chosen me. Love has called my name, and I've been born again into the family. Your blood flows through my veins, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Oh, yes, I am. No longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. We're sons and daughters. Let us sing our freedom. Whoa, whoa, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. Yeah, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. Oh, you rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Oh, yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight."
showing me love in the midst of the dark. I don't know what you're doing, but blindly I am pursuing you now. Good Shepherd, lead my heart. Come and do what you want to do. You will do what only you can do. I wanna be where you are, no matter how far it takes me. Lead through the dark. My hope, you will not forsake me. Whoa, I will trust in you. Whoa, I will trust in you. We can trust in you. I don't know where you're taking me, but I know that you're making me like you. You'll just wash away. When I'm tired of contending, you know you are the beginning and end. King Jesus, you are here now. Come and do what you wanna do. Oh, you will do what only you can do. Oh, I wanna be where you are, no matter how far it takes me. Lead through the dark. My hope, you will not forsake me. Whoa, I will trust in you. Whoa, I will trust in you. So bring on the waves. I'm loved by the one who anchors me. No fear of the grave. I walk with the King of victory. So bring on the waves. I'm loved by the one who anchors me. No fear of the grave. I walk with the King of victory. So bring on the waves. I'm loved by the one who anchors me. No fear of the grave. trust in you. Oh, I will trust in you.
Yes, Venture, the Lord is trustworthy. He's faithful. And it's so cool to look back and see how the Lord has worked in our lives. And if you don't know, Venture turns 11 today, which is so exciting. And Charlie asked me to share some of my journey through being a part of Venture. And so, I joined Venture 10 years ago. And I was in high school, and the Lord placed Charlie and Katie in my life. They helped me walk through a lot of brokenness and hurt, and really pointed me to Jesus for healing. And also, from high school, I developed a love for worship, and so not soon after, I joined the worship team. And fast forward to February 2015 is when I decided to get baptized, and it was in a middle school cafeteria in true Venture fashion. And I feel like that was really the Lord sort of launching me into ministry. So that later that year, I attended Youth with a Mission. And when I came home, I continued to volunteer with the worship team. And a couple years after that, I heard that Venture was starting a residency program. And that would give me an opportunity to learn more about worship and how all that works. So I did residency for 2 years. And that was a really big turning point with my walk with Jesus. I used to be shy, really reserved, didn't feel like I had much to offer anyone. And the Lord totally turned that around. He took that and he gave me boldness. He gave me courage. And a big thing is learning leadership. He taught me that a leader doesn't have to be outspoken all the time, but he showed me that I can be a quietly confident leader. And so that was a huge relief, because the former was not me. And so Galatians 2:20 says, it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And because of that, I no longer have to live with my introverted self, but it's the Lord that gives me strength to proclaim his good news and his gospel of truth. So, with that, we're going to move into our Venture 5 and maybe share with somebody around you how the Lord has worked through Venture in your life. And if you're tuning in online, feel free to let us know in your chat box as well. We'd love to hear from you. And so Venture, we'll see you back in 5.
Hey Venture, welcome back. This is the Venture 5 where we get an opportunity to meet each other. Again, the band is coming down, a new speaker is coming up, people are getting coffee, talking to each other. I have with me Taylor Els, and I'm glad that she took the opportunity to come in and be on a Venture 5. So if you get the chance to meet her in person, do so. So Taylor, tell me how you found Venture.
I moved here last summer, and I was just trying out churches and tried out a few other churches. Whit and Jamie Jones actually told me they go here because I got connected with them. And came to Venture and absolutely loved it, and it just felt like a home for me. So
And so how did you get connected? You said a year. You've been here a year.
Yes.
And Elisa, who works with all the serving teams, recommended I talk to you. And so how did you get connected in, and what is your kind of role in that?
So Lisa, the first day I was here, Lisa talked to me and just made me feel so welcomed here. And then as I continued to come, I was realizing that I wanted to serve here and not just consume, but also be a part of the church and make other people feel welcome like Lisa made me feel welcome. So my job here is just to greet people and greet them with a smile and just make them feel like no matter where they're at, no matter what their past is, who they are, that they're welcome here in Venture.
I think that's awesome. Perfect person for that role. So you said something there that you said, you came into Venture and you were no longer just wanting to consume, but you wanted to kind of take that next step. And I think there's people that are in that space in their own faith steps where they maybe feel like they want to take that next step and no longer kind of be fed And what is that like? And kind of talk to that a little bit.
Right, yeah. So it is definitely more of a time commitment. So it's not like you have to be willing to do that, but it's 100% worth it if you take that next step, because it's crazy how much you grow as well spiritually, serving as part of the church, as well as helping other people get connected. So
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me hear. So Taylor, let me hear about your faith story. So how you found Jesus, and kind of maybe rewind me back so I get to know you a little bit more, and those watching get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, so I came to Christ in college. Before I grew up in athletics, so I always kind of felt like you had to earn everything, and I included that with my faith. And then I had a mentor from Campus Outreach actually explain the gospel to me for the first time, and that Jesus already paid for all my sins, and I can't earn my salvation. And God just really just wants a relationship with me. So from that moment on,
What did that conversation sound like? Like, what did you
Yeah.
feel like in your heart as an athlete myself, a college
Yeah.
athlete? Like,
Yeah.
I was in that same boat. And so when you heard that story of like the battle's been won, the debt's been paid, like how did you take that in?
Definitely freeing, because when you feel like you have to earn everything, my relationship with God was I saw him as like a dictator that was just mad at me all the time, and it's a lot of shame and guilt. But once I realized he's
Following
already
rules.
yeah, like I read my Bible so that maybe God would give me like a good day and be happy with me, and then if I sinned, I'd try to read it again. But you just can't keep up because we're sinning
'Cause we're-
constantly
'cause we're
because we're so
sinners.
imperfect. Yeah. And God knows that, and he provided a solution, and so it was very freeing to not have to be on that treadmill anymore of earning God's love, because he's already paid that price for us.
Yeah, no, that's a deeper understanding of the gospel, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's you're in a great position here at Venture, and within the groups that you move in, that to be able to share that's awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
So what was your sport in college?
Volleyball.
Volleyball,
Yeah,
okay.
and I actually coach volleyball now, so
Okay.
at Montana State. So now
Oh, very cool.
I pray that God will kind of use me in that same way.
Is
as
it
my athletes.
do you get opportunities to speak into people's lives at that level?
I do, yeah. When you coach in college, you go through a lot with your players, whether it's a bad loss, whatever it is, and so
Or even outside of athletics?
Yeah.
They come to you because they trust you.
yeah, with life things as well. So yeah, I just having that opportunity is kind of rare, but also awesome because we're with them more than their parents. So yeah,
That's a
just
really
getting
good
to
point.
speak into their lives, and hopefully they see some part of Jesus through me. Hopefully God uses me through that, which he's been very faithful, so it's been really awesome.
Yeah, wow. Well, you got a great story, and
Well,
I know
thank
we're
you.
kind of running out of time, but Taylor, thank you so much for meeting with me and speaking to all those watching. This has been great. So if you get the chance, or if you play volleyball, meet her and talk to her.
Say hi.
So that was awesome. And
Yeah.
enjoy the service.
Good morning, Venture. All right, only half of you are awake. So ready? Let's try that again. Good morning, Venture. Nice. I heard the online crowd loud that time, so it's good. Well, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Really glad you're here. I'm really excited for what God has in front of us today. And I want to do so. I want to just take a second and do something. I know some of you, if you're not new around here, you're used to me saying this. So, but please don't get used to it to where you zone out. Okay? But on your chair, there's a piece of paper that looks like this. I would encourage everybody to grab this real quick right now. Like, go for it. Just dive around. If you slid it down the row or whatever, wherever it's at, find it and grab that real quick. The reason for that is we are here, we exist to help you take your next step in your relationship with God, no matter where you're at. The reason is because we believe that God is who he says he is, and he offers the best life possible. So our desire is that you would experience life to the full, the life that God created you to live. Not a facade, not a substitute or anything like that, but the genuine life that God has for you. So I believe that at some point this morning, and maybe he already has,
God is going to prompt you with a next step to take. And this right here is what changes that from a hope, a wish, a possibility into a conversation where that can actually happen. And so I would encourage you to start filling this out, and then let us know what God's doing in your life and how we can help you, how we can be praying for you, because that's why we're here. So Kristen mentioned that today Venture turns 11, and that is so exciting. Yeah, that's a little weird for me because I feel old all of a sudden, but at the same time, we were spending some time this last week just going back through and just thinking about and walking through all the things that God has done, and man, we could talk about that, but we'd all be here for like 20 hours plus, and it'd be exciting and stuff, and we're going to do some of that, and you'll hear more about that over in the coming weeks. But here's one of the things that just, man, I love so much is who you are, who we get to be together. The church is oftentimes seen as in society is this thing that's worthless. It doesn't really matter. It's not really effective. It doesn't do anything. And that is not you. That is not us. We are known in this community and around the valley as being the church that serves, people who roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. Some of the most fun things, like even last night, this room was packed with people. If you missed the Greater Impact Chili Cook-Off last night, you missed out. It was fun. So, but there were a lot of people in this room eating chili, so we had to let them go at some point to get out of here, right? But some of you will catch that in a minute. But last night was so much fun as we get to celebrate even just the community coming around people and broken people in desperate situations. Some of the most fun celebrations for me last week, we got to celebrate Sophia graduating from the Lindsay House. And we love what God is doing in this valley, and we get to be in some of the messiest, broken parts of people's lives, and that is the joy. That's so much fun, because honestly, we're all broken, right? Our lives are all a little bit of a mess from time to time, and so thank you for being willing to step into the mess, for being there with people. And so what God is doing in the Jeremy house and our men's recovery house and the Lindsay house and our women's recovery house is so exciting to see that, but not just there, in your lives. Every one of us, God is working in our lives if we allow it, if we let him. Right? He stands at the door and knocks. He's not going to barge it down. He's not going to force himself into your life. He is ready and waiting for you to surrender and to be part of and allow him to move in and through your life. And so many of you, your lives have been changed. Your families have been changed. Your marriages have been restored. All kinds of things have happened. And it's because of your willingness to allow God to just do what God does. And so thanks for being who you are. It is so much fun to see what God is doing in you and through you. So, so it's a ton of fun. So celebrating 11 years, it's exciting, it's fun, but really what we're celebrating is you celebrating together what this looks like as we team up, as we partner with God, and we just allow God to do what God does. So keep it up. I can't wait to see what God does over the next 11 years. Something else we get to celebrate. We got a lot to celebrate around here, and we've been doing that. It seems like we've got a party like every week for the last 5 weeks. And maybe we'll just keep it up. But this week is also, there's something else going on across. Actually, it's around the globe. Really, it just happens here in America. But it's Super Bowl Sunday today. One of you cares. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'm actually curious though. How many of you don't care about the Super Bowl at all? That's awesome. All but one. Okay, there you go. Who actually does care about the Super Bowl? Okay, all right. Okay, so of you who do care, right? Who wants the Eagles to win? Okay, it's all of you that care about the Super Bowl. Okay, how many of you want the Chiefs to lose? Okay, for real, who wants the Chiefs to win? Okay, those are prayer requests. Okay, did you see that? So, hands down. It's okay. No, but no, that's what I've found this year is nobody really wants the Chiefs to win. Everybody wants the Chiefs to lose. Nobody even is like, there are people who are for the Eagles. There are legitimate Eagles fans, okay? But there are a lot of Eagles fans when they're playing the Chiefs. Like, everybody wants the Chiefs to lose. It's awesome. And so I am wearing my Broncos coat today because this is the only Broncos gear I have. The only football gear I have this is it right here, okay? And the Broncos are my team, okay? And the reason I'm cheering for the Broncos today is I figure they've got just as good of a chance of winning this Super Bowl as any Super Bowl, okay? So that's just how life is for us. If you're a Broncos fan, I know it's hard, I get it, okay? But so go Broncos. I'm going for the Broncos today. So anyway, so today in the Super Bowl, you've got two teams, okay? And it doesn't matter. You might not be a Super Bowl fan. You might not be a football fan. You might not be like even sports, okay? So bear with me. You don't have to like sports to get this, okay? But today in the Super Bowl, there are going to be two teams that are going to be fighting for the world championship title, right? To say they're Super Bowl champions for at least another 6 weeks until the next season starts, right? So, but they're going for the bragging rights today to say I'm the best in the world. The focus, though, has tended to be on two players, and the focus is on the quarterback of each team. But we know in a Super Bowl, it takes more than just one individual. Right now, today, they're focusing on Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs and Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they put so much pressure on those guys and so much weight on them to say whoever does the best job is their team's going to win the Super Bowl. Though there is some truth to that, right? We all understand it takes more than just one person to win a game, to win the Super Bowl, to win in life. But it takes a team. You may have maybe even heard the phrase, teamwork makes the dream work. Nice, okay? Teamwork makes the dream work. And we get that. Like if we stay in the football analogy, if you're a Broncos fan, okay, which you don't have to admit that if you are, okay, I'll own that for us, okay? If you're a Broncos fan, this year you had a lot of hope, right? We had Russell Wilson go from the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos, and everybody's like, yes, finally, we're going to be good, right? And the problem is Russell Wilson came to the Denver Broncos, and that's it. Right? Like, there's no administration, no team, no nothing around him, right? He's kind of on his own. And so it takes more than just a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. So everybody looks at Tom Brady. A couple years ago, he wasn't really traded. He decided he was done with the Patriots, which is a great decision. Like, if you're a Patriots fan, you just decide to be done with the Patriots. That's a win, right? That's a good decision in life. But anyway, I'm just kidding. My mom is a Patriots fan. That was for you, Mom. Where was it going? Anyway, he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady. We're back to Tom Brady. Okay, he leaves the Patriots. Good decision, right? Goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the first year wins a Super Bowl, which is impressive by all means. But what most people don't know is everybody that was good on the Patriots went with him, right? They all went to Tampa Bay that year, okay? And then every other all-star that Tom Brady wanted to play with that year also came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they had the most loaded team in the NFL. They should have won the Super Bowl, right? But it wasn't just Tom Brady. And we get that. I mean, I know if you're a Tom Brady fan, I'm sorry, okay? But the next year proved it, right? That no Super Bowl the next year because all the team retired. All the team quit. They moved. They were transferred to other teams. You didn't have the team around. Same thing. Tom Brady's not in the Super Bowl this year either because we realize it takes more than just one player. Though one player can make a significant impact and difference in that, it takes a team. And I'll say this, in the major arenas of life, it takes a team to be successful. There are no Lone Rangers in success in life. Now, we've been walking through this conversation about building trust. And the question I want to give you this morning, and I want to ask you is who's on your team? Who's on your team? as you think about life and you think about being successful, who is it that's on your team? You would say, these people are in my corner. These guys are helping me be successful. That's what we tend to think of, right? Now that I've got you going that direction, because that's the direction many of us will go, I want us to turn the table around. And I want you to consider, whose team are you on? Whose team are you on? Now, if you're type A, you're a leader, business owner, whatever, in here, you're in everything inside of you just pushed back. It's like, I'm not on a team, right? I got people on my team, right? I've got an agenda, I've got a business, I've got goals, I've got all this stuff, and I've got a team of people that have joined me, and their prerogative, their goal is to make my business better. But here's the thing. I would say this, no matter how successful you are, no matter how powerful you are, and no matter whatever's going on in your life, you are on a team. You might be on your own team, or you're on God's team. But what team are you on? What jersey are you wearing? What's most important to you? What does success look like in your life? Whose team are you on? Now, as we've been walking through this conversation called building trust, we are committed as a church to saying, I want to grow in trust and trusting God with every area of my life, in everything and with everything over the course of this year. And so that we've been looking at the sovereignty of God. Is he all powerful? Is he able to do, even if I do pray and I ask him for something, or is he even able to? Does he have the power to pull it off? And is he good? Does he even like me? Will he do it? If it's the best for me, will he actually do this? Does he care enough about me to do that? Right? As we've walked through that, many of us have said, okay, God, I might not like how you do things, but I'm going to trust you. I believe that you are fully sovereign, that you are God, you are all powerful, and you are incredibly good, and you will work things out for my good and for your glory. And I'm going to trust you in that. Even if I don't like the how, I'm going to trust you. That's so important because just because we don't like the how doesn't mean he's not working, okay? But once we decide to trust God, that's when we say, okay, God, I'm going to join your team. I'm going to link arms with you, and maybe even you're just test driving it. And you're just saying, okay, I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to see, God, if I can trust you. I'm going to see, God, if you will be there as I walk through tough stuff in life. And maybe that's where you're at, and that's okay. Right? But this morning, I want to take a transition in that conversation to, instead of just building trust, to building team. Because at some point when we decide to trust God, we surrender our lives to him and we say, God, I want you to be God and I want to be part of what you're doing and I want to hang on for the ride right now. So as we talk about this building team, several of you last week, right here in front of everybody, you decided to get baptized. You said, okay, I'm taking off my jersey and I'm putting on your jersey. God, I'm going to join your team. I'm surrendering my life to you. I'm going public with this. The world's going to know I'm on your team. Now, does that mean you're going to do it perfectly? No. Okay? Right? But we all understand that just by joining a team doesn't mean all the problems go away. As a matter of fact, no matter what team you join, you actually step into struggle. You step into trials. You step into challenges in your life. Let me explain. Some of you saw someone, maybe for some of us this was longer ago than for others, okay? But maybe you saw someone and all of a sudden out of the sky, these rose-colored glasses fell upon your face. And you started to see everything this person did as wonderful. Maybe you then even proposed and you got married, okay? And when you stepped into marriage, at some point, those rose-colored glasses that were so beautiful cracked, broke, shattered. Maybe who knows? Something happened to them. They got lost, right? You're still looking for them, okay? Like something happened to those rose-colored glasses, and it's called life, okay? It's called reality. We had a reality check, and we were able to see that person as they really are. Some other flaws that we weren't able to see before. We were able to see how they handled things in life, and we didn't like it. Okay, and there was something that we bumped up against in that. There was some tension in that. So if you've ever been in a relationship with some other human being, you've experienced tension. You've experienced opposition. Okay, you've experienced something different than you. Maybe at some point you even then introduce kids into that relationship. If you have kids, you've experienced opposition. Right? You have invited a precious little sinner into your life who only thinks about themselves. That's no fun for anyone for too long, right? Like, we think about it, like, if they're hungry, what do? Cry, freak out. All kinds of, like, it just escalates, right? It doesn't stop until they're fed, right? If they are dirty, they just cry. They just lay there in it and cry. They can't do anything about it, nothing. And we love that. We're like, oh, it's so cute, so awesome, so precious, right? If I do that, my wife doesn't think it's precious, right? Like, just sit there and freak out, throw a fit, made a mess, right? Like, it's not cute, right? At some point, we have to grow up. At some point, our kids have to grow up, right? And when they do, if they do, that becomes beautiful sometimes, okay? Not all the time, I get it, right? It's relationship. And inside relationship, there's tension. There's opposition. There's something that's fighting against us. If you've ever had a job, right? You've ever worked for someone, and now all of a sudden, you're in cubicles or you're on the job site with other personalities, and you realize, wait, I see life differently. I see this obstacle, I see this challenge, I see this whole setup differently. I don't like this personality type. I don't like how they talk like this, or I don't like how they navigate this. And we realize there's tension in every area of life. My opinion is that a team without a challenge is not worth being on. Think about that. A team without a challenge, without opposition, is not worth being on. Use this as an example. This is a basketball. In case you're not a sports fan, this is go with me here. This is a basketball. Think about a basketball team. If you're on a basketball team and you have put in a lot of effort, you have practiced day in and day out. You've put in the sweat. You've put in the workouts. You've put in all of the practice, and you are ready for the big game, right? And maybe you get on a bus and you travel and you get all warmed up and you hit the locker room and you come back out ready for the game. You come back out on the court and the other team doesn't show up, right? It's just your team. Now you win because they forfeit. But is there actual joy in the victory? Think about it. If you're the only one on the court, and you just get like, they don't even show up. There's nobody in the stands. There's no one in the seats to watch the game. You just walk out and you're like, yeah. See, without opposition, basketball is no fun. Think about the Super Bowl. So today, if the Eagles go and they get all warmed up and the stands are full even and everything, there's just this excitement in the air. They storm out of the tunnel, and then the Kansas City Chiefs don't show up. That actually might be fun. Okay, yeah. So this maybe breaks down. That analogy breaks down. Don't forget about that. Okay, but think about that. You've put in all the work. And you go out and you want to win. You want to play this game, and the other team doesn't show up. A forfeit is no fun. Okay, if the Eagles walked away with the victory, with the Super Bowl trophy, can you imagine that celebration just because the Chiefs didn't show up today? Like, woohoo! Like we won, right? There's no ownership in that. There's no fun in that. There's no purpose and meaning, significance in that, right? Sports, you might not be a sports fan, okay? But if you are a sports fan, what makes sports fun is the opposition. It's the fact that when you step onto the court, there's another team going to step on the court, and their goal is to get you to lose. Their goal is to beat you. Their goal is that you would fail. Their goal is that you wouldn't be as good as them, right? That they would come out with the win. That's what makes sports fun. Whether you're in football, whether you're basketball, whatever sport you're in, there's opposition. Even if it's a one-on-one sport, right? There's opposition. That's what makes it fun. I would suggest that the same thing happens in life, is that when there's opposition in life, that's what actually brings meaning. That's what brings purpose and significance to life, right? It's what makes life fun, is the tension, the opposition. It's the opposition that actually allows us to become who we currently aren't. Think about this. Michael Jordan. I can't even say this anymore because some of you will say that's not true. But my opinion is Michael Jordan is probably the best basketball player of all time. Okay. However, Michael Jordan could go in and shoot thousands and thousands of free throws, thousands of three-pointers. He could have the best statistical record in the gym, in the practice gym. Okay. But unless Michael Jordan is face-to-face with competition, nobody actually gets to know how good Michael Jordan really is, right? It's because of the opposition. It's when he's faced up against the best players in the NBA that he's actually pushed to be better than he knows he is. He's pushed to be better than he can in the practice gym, because in the practice gym, you're not pressed to the places that you are when everything's on the line. And for some of us spiritually, what we've done is we've spent so much of our lives praying away the opposition. So spiritually, what we'll do is we'll see there's an opponent, and we'll say, okay, God, take that away. Take this trial away. Take this tough thing away. Take this opposition away. And what we're asking, just bear with me here for a second. What we're asking is we're saying, God, can you make the enemy forfeit? Like, we want to run out of the tunnel and the stands to be empty and to be like, yeah, look at me, I'm the best. Look at me, I'm crushing life. It's awesome. It's so easy. And what's actually happening is we'll do this as Christians. We'll say, hey guys, look, life's awesome. Life's so easy. There's no opposition. It's just rainbows and sunshine for me. And the watching world looks at us and they're like, what are you doing? I don't want that. There's no purpose in that. There's no growth in that. There's no excitement in that. There's no intensity. I want more than that. I want life. And they know that in life there is opposition. And we can tend to sit back and just pray, God, take away the other team. Take away the enemy. Take away the opposition. So that we can stand in a room and just be like, yeah, look at me. Look how good I am. In the practice gym, I'm awesome when no one else is around. And the watching world says, what in the world? I want to share what Jesus says. Jesus says this in John 10:10. He tells us that the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. Jesus makes it abundantly clear. In life, you have an opponent. In life, there will be tension. In life, there is opposition in life, okay? You have an enemy. There is someone who is lining up on the other side of the court, and their prerogative, their agenda is to get you to fail. Their agenda is to get you, is to beat you, okay? To get you to fall down, rub your face in it, see how good I am, see how bad you are, right? You have in life an opponent. There's opposition in life. Now, totally random, little side note here. If you're not aware that you have opposition in life, look around. You might be wearing the same jersey. You might be going the same direction. In this, though, going back to this, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Our opponent, okay? Our enemy. But I have come, Jesus says, that they may have life and have it to the full. I want you to pay attention to this and get this. Because Jesus wants to give us the abundant life. A life that's worth living. And a life that's worth living is a life with opposition. But we have to understand who the opponent is. Oftentimes, we think God's the opponent. Like God's my enemy. God's the one that's keeping me from living life. God's the one that's keeping me from having fun. God's keeping me from doing what I want to do. But really, in life, Jesus says that no, you have an enemy, and he wants to destroy you. And if you want to live this life to the full, make sure you're wearing my jersey, you're on my team, but we've got an opponent, and we are going to win. In the end, if you'll trust me, if you'll stay on my team, if you'll do what I ask you to do, if you'll fight for the betterment, the strength of this team, if you'll build team, we will win, and it will be fun, and it will be exciting, and it will be the abundant life. But if you're going to do this, there's going to be opposition. Because it's the opposition where our faith is strengthened. It's in the opposition that our faith is tested. And we get to decide, no, this is my team. And I know that, we might have lost a game here. We might have lost it down here. We might have gotten hurt. We might have lost a player along the way, or an injury, or whatever. But we're staying in it because we know the end of the story. And I know who wins, and I'm going to trust him, and I'm going to fight for team. Later in John 16:33, Jesus says, in this world, you will have trouble. Okay? You will. Not you might, but you will have trouble. If you're going to suit up, if you're going to live this life, as long as you have a pulse, as long as you're breathing, you will have trouble. But, he says, take heart. I have overcome the world. And so, yes, we are going to have trouble. There's going to be opposition. But who are we going to link arms with? Whose team are we going to be on? What battles are we going to fight? And are the battles we're fighting, are they worth fighting? As you consider that, I want us to look at a guy's story in the Bible that we looked at part of this last week. So I'm not going to dig into it fully because we shared a big part of this in the baptism last week. So if you missed it, go back and catch up in this conversation with us. Listen to the podcast from last week or watch the video. But there's this man named Philip in the book of Acts, and in Acts chapter 8 is where we're gonna pick up here in a minute. And so if you're not familiar with your Bible, the New Testament part starts with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then Acts is the very next book. And so Acts chapter 8, we pick up this guy's story named Philip, and Philip is like one of my heroes of the faith. I love Philip's story. I wish there were like 10 chapters just on his life, but there's not. Like, we don't actually get to know all that much about Philip, except for he is a stud. He is his faith is so strong. Like, he believes, this just oozes out of who he is. He believes that God is who he says he is. And wherever God's at, whatever God's doing, Philip wants to be right in the middle of that. And Philip finds himself in those places. And so I want us to pick up the story in the beginning of Acts chapter 8, because in the beginning of Acts 8, there's incredible tension. There is opposition like none of us know, right? What just happened is Stephen, who's another spiritual giant, is martyred. Okay, he's murdered in the streets for his faith. And there's this guy named Paul, also known as Saul, who wrote a large portion of the New Testament of our Bible, right? But before one chapter later, in Acts chapter 9, he's going to have an encounter with God in which his life is going to be completely transformed, and he's going to go on to serve God. But at this point, he is so angry and so upset at the church that he's made it his prerogative to kill and imprison as many Christians, people following Jesus, as he possibly can. And so there is a lot of opposition that they're facing, like legitimate opposition. Right here, we don't have soldiers standing at the door threatening to kill anyone who believes in Jesus. But that's the situation they find themselves in. There's intense opposition here. So we pick up in Acts chapter 8, starting in verse 1. It said, and Saul approved of their killing him. Saul we just talked about. Verse 1. On that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. So because of this opposition, they're scattered throughout the region. And godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. But Saul began to destroy the church. Going from house to house, he dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. Like, try to put yourself in this situation where somebody's threatening you to kill you or your wife or your kids or something. And if you believe in Jesus, you're gonna die. They're gonna die. But if you renounce your faith, you'll live. Put yourself in their shoes. Verse 4 says, "Those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went." I'm going to pause right here because I don't want us to miss this. They have just been scattered throughout the region because of opposition. And the reason there's opposition is because they're sharing about Jesus. They're talking about Jesus. If they just stay where they're at and they quit talking about Jesus, they're fine. There's no opposition. But if they keep talking about Jesus, they're going to die. So get this, in this, those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. That only happens if we really believe that God is who he says he is. That only happens if we actually step into a relationship and where we commit to trusting him. Otherwise, if my life's on the line, I'm looking out for me. I'm not thinking about God. But they've come to understand that God really is who he says he is, and he offers the best life possible. And if I die, I want someone else to experience life. I want someone else to experience hope. I want someone else to know that there is a God who loves them, who sees them, and he's given his life for them so that they could be set free. I want people to know about Jesus and who he is. That only happens if we really, truly believe. And so they put their life on the line in order to share life with others. Okay, verse 5, Philip went down to a city in Samaria and proclaimed the Messiah there, that Jesus really is who he says he is, that he's the one, his blood was shed for the forgiveness of your sins. He's letting them know you have a Savior, you have a Messiah. Someone has paid the price for your sin if you'll surrender, if you'll choose to accept his free gift. And when the crowds heard Philip and saw the signs he performed, they all paid close attention to what he said. For with shrieks, impure spirits came out of many, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was great joy in that city. Now, pay attention. Verse 9. Now, for some time, a man named Simon had practiced sorcery in the city, and he amazed all the people of Samaria. He boasted that he was someone great. And all the people, both high and low, gave him their attention and exclaimed, "This man is rightly called the great power of God." So, getting this, Simon referred to himself and was referred to by others as the great power of God because of the sorcery he was doing. Okay? Now, hang on to this. They followed him because he had amazed them for a long time with his sorcery. This just shows, this is part of why I love the Bible so much. It shows just how shallow, how fickle we are and can be, right? How quickly we follow the shiny, the catchy, the attractive, the new, right? We can jump on things and we can follow things just because they're the new fad or they're the latest trend or they're intriguing, we're curious, whatever. But notice what happens. But this is a curveball. Everything changed here. But when they believed Philip, as he proclaimed the good news of the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women. I want to pause here real quick. Because here you've got a guy named Simon who is doing all these tricks. All this cool stuff is happening, right? This shiny, sexy, fancy stuff is happening, and people are following Simon, saying he's the great power of God. Like this guy is it. Follow him. And then Philip comes along and he starts talking about Jesus. Jesus who was crucified, who stepped out of the comfort of heaven and took on flesh, and lived a sinless life while facing every temptation that we face, and yet lived a sinless life so that his blood could be shed, so he could pay the price for your sin and mine, so we could be set free, so our relationship with him could be restored. And he starts sharing this, and all of a sudden now, people that are following Simon the sorcerer are saying, I want to surrender my life. I want to give my life to Jesus. I'm going all in. I want to be baptized. Here's something I want us to see. That blows most of our minds. Just because what we tend to see and what the world tends to see through us is we see a bunch of Christians who are standing in the basketball court, on the basketball court all by ourselves and say, hey, look at me. This is awesome. See, I'm the best. There's nobody around. There's no opposition. Life is good, right? But that's not what Philip is doing. Philip understands there's an enemy. Philip understands the opposition. Philip understands at any moment he could lose his life, that it may be taken from him now. And yet with that, Philip says, bring it on. Check. Let's go. And he teams up with God and says, I want my life to matter. And so we're going to fight the opposition. No matter how hard this gets, I'm going to be in the trenches. I want to be in the game. What kind of life are you living? Do you want the ball? Are you in the game? Do you have opposition? Or are you going in the same direction the opposition is going? Think about that. Check this out. He says, Simon himself believed and was baptized. Even the man who considered himself to be the great power of God, and everyone else was looking to him as being the great power of God, he knew that he wasn't. Even though everyone else thought that he was, he knew that he wasn't. And he surrenders his life to Jesus as well. And he followed Philip everywhere, astonished by the great signs and miracles that he saw. Later, he gets reprimanded and stuff by Peter, and it's really cool. You should read the rest of the story. It's good stuff, okay? But everyone is following Jesus. They're seeing all this sorcery. They're seeing all this stuff. They're seeing the opposition. They're seeing all the fancy stuff. They're seeing everything that the world has to offer. And many of them have chased after those things. And here in the midst of it, everybody is surrendering their lives to Jesus and saying, okay, I want to live a life that really, really matters. Sign me up for the opposition. And I love the story of Philip because it teaches us that teamwork is what makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work. But he was a man who fully trusted God. And see, the beauty in Philip is Philip was the go-to guy, right? He was God's go-to man. So and think about this. Are you God's go-to man? Are you God's go-to woman? Because today in the Super Bowl, if you watch the Super Bowl, right? Commentators are going to talk about go-to men. Okay? They're like with Jalen Hurts and with Patrick Mahomes, they're going to have some wide receivers that they're looking to, that they're the go-to people because they're the ones that they're going to trust to not drop the ball. They're the ones they're going to trust to catch the ball in the end zone, in bounds, and make the play that needs to be played. And Philip was God's go-to man. And I talked about this last week, but I don't want to be just a man who trusts God. I want to be a man that God trusts. Right? God says, okay, Charlie's in the room, and I got this guy. Charlie, I need you to walk across the room, and I need you to have a conversation. Charlie, I need you to see this need because I want you to meet this need. I want you to do something about it. Charlie, if you're in the room, you're going to do this. You're going to see this. I want to be a man that God trusts, where he'll put me in situations where I can be his go-to because I want to live on the front lines. I want my life to be about Jesus, not about me. Now, I want to share with you the rest of the story. From here, that we go on, and Philip is told by God to go south to the road from Gaza to Jerusalem to talk to the Ethiopian eunuch. He shares the gospel with them, the good news of Jesus, and the man says, "What should stand in my way of getting baptized? There's a pond right there. Let's do this now." And he says, "I need to get baptized." Yeah, I shared that last week, so I'm not going to walk through that. But the very next verse 39, says, "When they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord suddenly took Philip away, and the eunuch did not see him again, but went on his way rejoicing." I just got to pause here, okay? Because so many times we could just be reading the Bible and we just skip right through stuff like this. Philip's teleported. Like, that's the first teleporting in the world, okay? Like, way before, like, sci-fi and way before the Hollywood got a hold of this. They got it out of Acts chapter 8, okay? Like, God teleports Philip. Why? Get this. Verse 40. Philip, however, appeared at Azotus and traveled about preaching the gospel in all the towns until he reached Caesarea. See, Philip was teleported because he was God's go-to man. Everything he did in life, he wanted to be right in the middle of what God was doing. And so God says, okay, hey, Philip, we're done here. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for being obedient. I need you over here, though. Like, now you can't run that fast. So here we go, buddy. Like, and he just puts him in a different place. Like, his journey is like all over. Like, it's awesome, okay? But God's just like, okay, Philip, I need you here. Okay, now I need you here. And Philip just lived his life saying, okay, I don't want to get so caught up in what I'm doing today that I miss out on life. Because what I focus on is going to try to rob me of life. And I want to live life. I want to live a life that matters. I want to live a life of significance. And he has an eternal perspective in which he sees every relationship, every conversation as somebody, as a spiritual being. And I get to share the good news of Jesus with them. And he commits to doing that everywhere he goes. And so God's like, okay, Philip, I need you here. Okay, Philip, I need you here. And the team that Philip decides to be on has a lot of opposition. And yet God wins. And God does some incredible stuff in Philip's life. I want to be a man like Philip that is so dependent on God and so committed to God to say, okay, God, whatever you need, wherever you need me, yes. See, it's teamwork that makes the dream work. Philip fully trusted God, but he was also a man that God trusted and used in incredibly powerful ways. Now this morning, we're going to do something that I love to do. I love communion. We're going to take communion together as a church, and I want to explain this to you, what communion is, first of all, for those of you who don't know. But when we take communion, what we're doing is we're remembering who Jesus is. We're reminding ourselves that he physically lived. And so that we're going to take bread and we're going to dip it in the juice, or there's cups with wafers. These are the ones up front here, just so you know, they have gluten in them. There are wafer cups and wafer packs in the back that are all gluten-free. So if you're gluten-free, the station in the back is gluten-free everything. So, but as believers, as followers of Jesus, we need to be reminded that Jesus actually lived. That he stepped out of the comfort of heaven and took on flesh for you and I. And so as you take the bread or the wafer in the cup, I want to just encourage you to physically hold it, just as a tangible reminder of the life that God lived. Now, as you hold that, I would also encourage you to make it as personal as you can. What does that mean in your life? Are you suiting up? Are you on his team? Or are you still living for yourself? Have you fully surrendered? Because as you hold that wafer, the reason he took on flesh was for you. And then it gets really real. When we take that bread and we dip it in the juice, or we take the cup and we drink it. And as you see the juice soak up in the bread, or you taste the juice in your mouth, it reminds us of the blood of Jesus that was shed for the forgiveness of our sins. And as Philip went around, he was committed to sharing the good news of Jesus with people. He was saying, hey, God has died for your sin. Jesus gave his life for you. It was his blood that has covered your sin so that you could be set free, so your relationship with God could be restored. And it was in that, as he shared that with them, they knew they couldn't be perfect on their own. They were done trying. They had made a mess of their lives, and they were surrendering their lives to Jesus, saying, I need you, and I want to live a life that really, really matters. And so around here, as you take communion, one thing that we ask is that you have a relationship with God. You don't have to be a member of Venture. This could be your first time here, whatever. But if you have a relationship with Jesus, if you say, I've surrendered my life to him, then we would invite you to take communion with us. Now, some of you in here, this may be the day where you say, okay, I have made a royal mess of my life. I've played God in my life. I've been on the throne, and I've made a mess. And today is the day I want to surrender to my life to Jesus. And I want him to be the Lord of my life. I want him to call the shots. I'm going to take off my jersey and I'm going to put on his. I'm going to be on his team. I'm going to link arms with him so that I can truly live. I want to live life, not just go through life, not just endure life. And if that's you, I would encourage you today to take communion and let it serve as a reminder of the tangible life of Christ, the payment. It's not some fairy tale. It's not made up story. It's not something mystical or fictitious. But he paid the price for your sin and mine so that we could be free. And so we're going to pray. And I'm going to pray for us here in just a minute. But as we prepare ourselves and prepare our hearts, I'm going to ask you to start a conversation with God. I know for some of us in here that's going to be easier than for others. And maybe this would be your first conversation. Maybe this would be an awkward conversation. But I want to encourage you to start a conversation with God. Ask him to maybe expose sin in your life. Maybe ask him to expose what areas of your life you're holding on to that you're not trusting God with. Maybe ask him to show you whose team are you on. Are you on your own team, fighting for yourself and trying to get as many people on your team, fighting for you as you can? Or are you on God's team? And what's keeping you from joining his team? Think about that. Wrestle with it. Ask God and confess. Confess your sin. Prepare your heart to be able to say, God, thank you. Thank you for the price that you've paid for me. Thank you for setting me free. Thank you for giving your life for me. So I'm just going to ask you, bow your heads and close your eyes. And in about a minute here, I want to pray for us. Wow, God, we thank you for this morning. And we thank you for the privilege that we get to be in this room. God, I pray that you would help us not to treat this time as a time to just check a box. Say I served my time or did my duty. Pray, God, that this wouldn't be a religious process. But God, I pray this morning you would open our eyes. Open our eyes to see reality, to see life for what it really is. And God, would you forgive us? Would you forgive us for playing God? Would you forgive us for not trusting you? Would you forgive us for fighting for ourselves and what we want more than what you want? And God, I pray right now that you would expose in each and every one of us the things that we're fighting for that don't glorify you, that aren't your best. Show us the things in our lives that are actually sucking the life out of us, that have promised to give life. God, I pray that this morning you would give us your perspective, that you would help us to acknowledge that you are God, that you would give us the strength of faith to say, when I'm facing opposition, that's to be expected. And right now, I've got a decision to make. Am I going to join the opposition and go in the same direction, or am I going to trust you and allow you to build my faith, allow you to help me to become stronger than I currently am? And so, God, I pray that you would give us the gift of perspective today, that you would help us to build team, that our lives would be about you, that we would trust you. Even if we don't understand how you're doing things or why you do things, God, I pray that you would help us to trust you. And God, as we take communion this morning, I pray that you would help us to take this, to walk through this with a heart of gratitude. That we would be so thankful for the price that you paid, for the fact that your blood was shed on the cross for the forgiveness of our sin, not your sin, our sin. God, thanks. Thanks that you loved me enough to give your life for me, to pay a price that I couldn't pay. So God, thank you for your incredible love. God, as we walk through this process, I pray that you would speak to us personally, so that when we walk out these doors today, we wouldn't leave you here. But God, I pray that what you're doing in our lives right now, the things that you're speaking to us, would transform the lives we live out there. God, help us to be your hands and feet. Help us to be your bride. Help us. Give us the same courage, the same passion, the same boldness that you gave Philip. Help us to be your go-to men and women this week. God, help us to understand who you really are and the life you invite us into, and help us, God, to trust you. Because God, I can't imagine what you could do in this community with just one of us saying yes to you. But God, if all of us in this room said yes to you and said, God, I want to be on the front lines of what you're doing. I want to be your man. I want to be your go-to man. I want to be your go-to woman. I want to be the one that you call on. Wow, God. I pray that would be your church, that we would be your hands and feet, that we would be your bride. Wow, God, thanks for your incredible love. Would you be with us right now? Would you speak to us as we walk through this time? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Would you do me a favor? Would you stand with us? And one at a time, as the worship team leads us through a song, I just invite you to come one at a time and partake of communion with us.
All my words fall short. I've got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do. But every song must end, and you never do. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, I've got one response. I've got just one move. With my arms stretched wide, I will worship you. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, shy on me. Lift up your song, 'cause you've got a light in it. Shatter those lies. Get up and praise the Lord. Oh, come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song, 'cause you've got a lion inside of those eyes. Get up and praise the Lord. Come on, church, let's sing this together. Come on. So come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song, 'cause you've got a lion inside of those eyes. Get up and praise the Lord. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, I'm nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, hallelujah. I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. I know it's not much, I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah. Yes, Venture, as you go this week, give him all that you have. Venture, you are sent. Go be the church.